To order the regular City Council meeting of Tuesday, September 17th, and let the record show that all members are present of the Council. With that, we will go on to Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Councilmember Rebecca Benassini.
Please join me or take a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 on our agenda is Council and Staff Communications. Is there any staff communications this evening? Councilmember Ridges, any communications? Councilmember Nicholson.
I've attended a lot of meetings, and I went to the Eden Housing meeting. It was a workshop that was held actually in this very room. We had a very large attendance and a really interesting presentation about the proposed senior housing project right next door south of here, and that was on September the 11th. And I also, in my role as chair of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, went to the City of Hercules Intermodal Transit Center groundbreaking ceremony for Segment 1, which actually is an extension of the Bay Trail, and that was pretty interesting. And that segment is funded, and in fact will go forward. And what they've done up there, because Hercules has some pretty developed ideas of what they would like to see, but they aren't funded, so they're doing it in segments so that actually there can be some progress as they develop funding for the different phases. So I also went to the Contra Costa College groundbreaking ceremony, which was on September the 4th. And they, through a measure that was on the ballot, have raised some money to do some replacement of some of their significant buildings there. And so it will be a very different looking place, I think, when they finish with the project. And I look forward personally to seeing all the improvements up there. And I also went to in my role as chair of Contra Costa Transportation Authority, I went to a ribbon cutting ceremony. We do a lot of that there. Out in eastern Contra Costa County, where they are working hard to try to relieve the very heavy level of congestion. And one of the things they're doing is, if you've ever been out to Brentwood, you may remember going on a two-lane road where you sort of go forever and then you turn left, maybe, depending on where you're wanting to go. And so they're making that into a into Highway 4 extension. And so what we were doing is opening one of the interchanges and called Sand Creek, and that we did on September the 5th. So, and I also attended the mayor's conference on behalf of the mayor, and that was held on September 11th. And we had a very interesting presentation by Henry Brady, who's the dean of the Goldman School of Public Policy at the University of California, Berkeley, and he talked about the polarization of American politics and the implications of the trend for the governance of cities. So that was pretty interesting, and I think everyone really enjoyed hearing him speak. And let's see here. I think that's about enough.
Great. Councilmember Benassini.
Thank you. Just 2 items to report on. First, the school district has released their draft strategic plan. City Manager Hannon and I attended the session, which was kind of for city and county and other agency officials who wanted to provide comments. I'm going to pass around the draft, and I marked one of the pages which shows the strategic plan's 6 key priorities along with the key hurdles those priorities are trying to address. And there, along with these priorities, are 57 objectives. And the idea is that these are all fantastic objectives, but clearly the people behind the strategic plan, including the school board and others, know that they have to get down to a more manageable list. So the importance of this draft is that they're taking discussions and input, and the idea would be that they would take these 57 objectives and narrow them down to 25 or 26 of the most important ones based on input from the public and the board and all the different stakeholders. So I'll pass it around with the City Council, and then I'll leave it up with Assistant City Manager Karen Pincus if anybody wants to take a look at it. The other item I wanted to report on is that the Contra Costa Library System held their town hall meeting in El Cerrito a couple weeks ago on September 11th. There was a great turnout here in City Hall, more than 60 residents. And the discussion was on 3 key questions that each sort of table group of folks who sat together talked about. And those were, what do you think is the biggest community priority that the library should serve in terms of its service? What is one thing the library could do better? And what is the most important contribution our library makes to the community today? So once all of the responses from all the other communities in the county are kind of put together, then each branch will have an idea of what the direction should be in terms of the service provided at the library. So thank you to those who participated, and for the strategic plan folks who put this together for having us participate.
There's no other comments this evening, then we'll move on to item 3. Item 3 is oral communications from the public. This is reserved time for the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda or that are on the consent calendar. We do limit speech to 3 minutes apiece. We do have a lighting system in front of the podium. When it goes green, you'll start. Yellow, you have a minute left. And red, I will ask you to please wrap up. We are pulling 2 items from the consent calendar at this time that I'm aware of. Item 5D, which is the Fall Prevention Awareness Week. I understand that Laurel Zine is here, and we will be effectively taking that up as the very first item when we get to item 5. So it will look a lot like a presentation. And then item 5H, I have a couple of thoughts that I would like to express, so we will take item 5H after we consider the other consent items. Therefore, if you are here to speak on either 5D or 5H, you will have an opportunity when we take those items up. First speaker, please.
Your Honor, we have 2 speaker slips. One is general comment, and one is for the Girl Scouts proclamation 4A. So the first one is Ray Turnipseed.
Good evening. I live on Gladys Avenue, 7301 Gladys Avenue, and I'm here tonight to voice my concern about the trucks that are going into Castro. I first came down to the city because when I retired 15 years ago, I thought it would be nice to get up in the morning, sleep in, which isn't the case because we get a lot of traffic that was coming to Portola, which is fine. But recently we had a problem over here with trucks lining up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so I called down to the city and said, why are these trucks up here at 6 o'clock in the morning? And I was told by the city, well, we don't know. And I said, well, can you get them out of here? And they said, well, they're not supposed to be there. They don't have a permit to be there. So I came down to the city and I got a copy of the permit and I took it up and talked to the superintendent of the job. And I got this smirk on his face. He said, oh, we've sent in an email to the city and we have a permit. I said, where is it? He says, well, we have it, and our route now is to come up Potrero, to turn on to Navalier, turn down Gladys Street, and turn and come down. And they didn't have that permit. And they were going to have a meeting, Ms. Ortiz, I talked to her, and they were going to have a meeting to talk about that. She said, I saw their email, I did not change the permit where they're supposed to go up Donnell to go into the school and come down that way. So then I said, well, I'd like to attend that meeting. She says, well, I don't think it's necessary, I'll take care of it. I called her back and she said, well, they think it's unsafe to go on that route that they're using and they like the route that they're going to use. I said, okay. Do they have a permit for it? No. I said, why not? I said, I think there's a safer route. She says, well, we're going to look into it. We're going to put a monitor there. They did that. The monitor came from the site, not from the city. Okay, that was fine. They decided to use that route. And then she told me, I said, I think there's a safer route. I think you should go up Schmidt and go down Lawrence. It's safer for the turning radius. Okay. Well, that's a little bit farther. We don't want to do that. So that's fine. So I live with it. But what we're having a problem with is one of the trucks, not more than one truck, several of the trucks have come within 6 inches of hitting a power pole. They're up on the sidewalk on Navalier and Gladys and Potrero and Navalier, turning up on the sidewalk, some of them having to back up to make the turn. They're going over double yellow lines to make the turns. They cannot make the turns safely. I'm asking the city to give them a better route and a safer route. It's an accident waiting to happen, and if they knock out a power pole, it's going to be a minor problem. They get 6 inches. Miss Ortiz came up and took pictures of the tire marks on the sidewalk. And it's a very dangerous situation, and I think it needs to be changed. And I'd like you to look into it and take care of it.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Dave Weinstein.
Hi, I'm speaking as chairman of the El Cerrito Trail Trekkers, and I came here to really thank the Girl Scouts for all that really great work they did on Ta Sahara Trail. I thought you guys were going to give them the proclamation first, and then I might speak afterwards. But it was just great. You know, they came to Trail Trekkers wondering what kind of work they could do to really help the city out, and we had seen that those 9 empty planters had been kind of looking desolate for a long time, and, you know, the place needed a little bit of spiffing up. It turns out there were 9 girls, 9 planters, so really it was a marriage made in heaven. And they're maintaining these things, and it's just one more way that the trails are tying the town together, and people get behind the trails, and they really did a great job. And, of course, Robin Mitchell from the Community Garden Group is out there, and Stephen Prey was out there helping. Just a really great thing all in all, and these girls deserve all the help. And a couple of other trekkers came just to thank them, too, so they can stand up if they want. So thank you, Girl Scouts. It's great to help out the city. Thank you.
Well, with no other speakers, we will move into item 4A, which is the Girl Scout proclamation. And I understand that Stephen Prey has a few slides.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Lyman, City Council staff, and members of the public. I am Stephen Prey. I'm the Environmental Programs Manager and City Arborist for the Department of Public Works, and I do have a little slide presentation. It's my honor, thank you, to call attention to the Girl Scouts here. This is El Cerrito Girl Scout Troop 31352, seated here, for the wonderful beautification project that they've been working on the last several months. As Dave Weinstein said, it all started for the city late last winter when the troop contacted Dave Weinstein, founder of the El Cerrito Trail Trekkers and member of the Environmental Quality Committee. They contacted Robin Mitchell, Recreation and Park Commissioner, Community Gardener, and Native Plant Enthusiast, and me. The troop had come up with this idea of beautifying the Tassajara steps, Tassajara Park steps off Barrett, with the renovation of 9 planting beds that had been retired some time ago due to budget constraints, diminished city funds. The project involved planting, and it needed to be low maintenance. Let's see. Oh, I need to point at that. I've got it, I think. There we go. Thank you. So, it helps when you turn it on. So the girls came together. We had a day on May 30th where the girls came together to plant the beds. They were doing some preparation of the beds with the cardboard sheet mulching here, seen here. A couple of girls don't look like they're having very much fun. Here's the first plant going in the ground using recycled cardboard sheet mulch to deter the weeds. Here's one of the California poppies some months later, benefiting from all that loving care that the girls have been giving it. Here's another planter And yet another. And here's a couple of the Girl Scouts who have worked together to ensure survival. One of the deals with this was that the troop had come up with the idea, but the clincher was they each came up with a design for one of 9 planters, and the deal was that they needed to commit to caring for the planters until they're established. So these girls have been out there, I guess, weekly or maybe more often, watering, dragging the hoses up and down these steps, and the result is there are these beautiful planters here. So there you have it. I'd like to give special thanks to Monica Quartz and the Public Works crews for their help. And at this time, I'd like the Girl Scout Troop 31352 to step up front here. I believe the mayor has something to say.
Well, actually, I will invite any of the council members to provide any words if they're interested. Otherwise, I will personally extend my thanks. That stairwell I used to use quite often when I had a dog. I live in that neighborhood, so I know that stairwell well. And so I thank you very much for making that improvement. It was much needed. I now get to ask the council if, I think we have to make a proclamation, so if I get to sign this proclamation. What's it sound? So the council is supposed to approve this proclamation, so can I get a motion? So
Second.
moved, seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. Shall we go down and get a picture taken?
Okay.
Okay, it's whatever you want.
Why don't you just do it? I think. Okay. Because it's hard to get that wide an angle when make sure all the Girl Scouts are there. Mayor can represent it.
Thank you very much. On behalf of El Cerrito, I want to thank you. All you have to do is say your name into the microphone. If you could please use the microphone, that'd be great. So, yep.
My name is Valencia White. My name is Madison Courts. I'm Maggie Campbell. I'm Sophie Hannon. I'm Isabella Rubenacre. I'm Christina Fideli. I'm Jamie Brown.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right. At this time, we'll move on to item 4B, which is El Cerrito Stars Internship Program. And I invite Sukari Bashirs to the podium for a brief presentation. And she's getting her presentation ready.
Good evening, Mayor Lyman, council members, and city staff. We're going to lights down a little bit. What I want to talk about tonight is our El Cerrito STARS program. This program was introduced to the City Council on May 7th, and we are now bringing it back to you to report out at the conclusion of the program. This program was an 8-week paid internship that began June 10th and ended August 2nd. Each intern that was part of the program will present to you this evening. And you probably hear me refer to them as the EC Stars. And just to kind of tell you what that means, it's El Cerrito Students Training and Ready for Success. We collaborated with the school district to bring this idea to fruition. And we started out by taking this program to the interns. We went out to the high school. We had department heads go out and talk to the interns about the opportunities so that they were aware of what those internships were. So we exposed them to the entire recruitment and selection process, which began with an application, interview, and then actual orientation before they were hired. And just to let you know, the interns, they worked an average of about 20 hours a week, and they also had weekly classroom meetings and assignments. The intern assignments were in each of our city departments. They were assigned to mentors who provided regular and ongoing guidance and feedbacks on assignments, and they exposed them to a work environment and local government. So the whole idea about the program was to bring students or to provide students with skill building internships through project assignments that we had here at the city. In addition to that, students also volunteer to work at special events such as the 4th of July and street play. We had 9 students participate in this program, and I'm proud to say that each and every one of them completed the program, and I believe that they will be able to take these skills on to use during their senior year at the high school. And for some of them, this was their first exposure to a job and to the work environment. So it was really great to have them be a part of this program. And what you see here is a picture of a student activity that we did with the interns. And this was basically working on communication and team building. So they were challenged to communicate outside of their normal comfort zone. So some of them, as you can see, there's 2 here that have blindfolds on. So they had to actually follow direction. They couldn't, they couldn't talk, and they couldn't see what was going on. So they had to do everything by touch. There were also some who could only communicate with their hands, and others who were only allowed to use verbal communication. So again, this was to get them out of their comfort zone and to help them to build other team building and communication skills. So with that, I would like to introduce our first intern, and her name is Emil. And what she will do is tell you what she did over her summer vacation. Emil?
Hello, my name is Amel Kaheli, and I am an EC Star. Who am I? I am a student from El Cerrito High. I'm currently a senior, and I am also in the ITA Academy. I was in the city management department with Karen Pinkos as my mentor, which was great. My future goal is to attend a 4-year college and to use the skills I learned during the internship and use them to excel in my future career. My experience as an intern. My project was actually pretty new to me. I learned what the assistant city manager did, which was municipal codes, another word for city laws. I learned how to research in a college level and was also able to draft a proposal for the regulation of tobacco smoking or secondhand smoke, and I presented it to the Environmental Quality Committee. I also volunteered, or I had the choice to volunteer for the El Cerrito 4th of July and also street play. My outcome, my presentation skills. I learned new presentation skills, like when I presented with the Environmental Quality Committee, which was my first time in City Hall presenting with Karen Pinkos. My research skills, I had to go far beyond what I learned in high school and into a college level, which is a new experience. And my communication skills, it was new. I had to be not talking in one of our activities with the egg, and I learned listening skills and also teamwork. And I will be passing it to Jessica. Hello, my name is Jessica Villaysuk, and I'm a senior at El Cerrito High School. I am also in the ITA Academy. Over the summer, I worked in the Human Resources Department for the City of El Cerrito. The roles I basically did for the Human Resource Department, my responsibilities were to research salaries and benefits for this project that I've done. And also I was filing opening jobs and I-9 forms and paperwork, basically with part-timers and full-timers that were resigned from 2010 and older. Why am I interested? I was interested in working for the City of El Cerrito because I wanted to get the feel of how it would be to work in a professional environment and also to serve my community. The project I worked on was the Salaries and Benefits project, which was basically about to compare the salaries and benefits with our city, El Cerrito, and other cities within the district like Pinole, Hayward, and Hercules, and etc. And what I did was I had to research online and go to their websites and gather their information of salaries and benefits and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I would input all that together and compare their salaries and benefits with each other, with El Cerrito's salaries and benefits. Skills I've utilized was basically my typing and researching skills, and also I've used Microsoft Word and Excel, which I've known how to use before. And also I got better at my communication and note-taking skills, which made me better at interviewing people and collaborating with others. And also a highlight was this project that I did was filing people who resigned from 2010 and older, well, part-timers and full-timers that resigned from 2010 and older. And for that, I had to take all the files from the drawers into the storage, put into boxes, and input their data into in Microsoft Word. And then after I was done, I would give them to Cheryl, and later on, the Human Resource Department would send them off to storage. For what I learned a lot of new things actually, and like that, we would go to classes on Fridays, and for the Friday classes, we would have guest speakers, and we would take notes on them, and from that, I would learn more about them, and about how they would get to their career path, and it inspired me of how they got through their struggles, and how they got to what vocation they really wanted to do, and that I got better at interviewing people, and collaborating with my classmates, which we had to do activities such as the egg activity that we did together, and that we had to collaborate with one another, which people weren't able to see and to also talk and stuff, so we had to collaborate, and it was pretty fun. And also, when we had our classes, we were assigned for different assignments like functional resumes and professional bios, and it's a benefit for our future career, hopefully, and that it was a great thing to do. And also, the outcomes of my experience was great. It was a really great experience. And that for that, I met new people, and I got to know them better, and I was comfortable working with them, such as my mentor, Cheryl Mosby, and Sakari Bashirs. And also, another outcome was I was being more punctual this time, and that I came to all my work. I came to work on time, and I got my assignments done on time, and that was a good thing for me, and I felt accomplished by doing that. And also I was able to apply the things I knew that I already had. I learned from ITA and from the other classes I've learned and that I could apply it to the real world and to this internship, and it was a great opportunity. And I would like to thank everyone and thank you for your time and thank you for those who contributed to this internship. Thank you. We're transitioning to Jesus.
Hi, my name is Jesus, and I am a senior at El Cerrito High School, and I am in the Media Academy. When I was in the summer internship for the city of El Cerrito, I was working in the city management department. My mentor was Suzanne Ayarla. I was excited to be a part of this internship because it was my very first job. It was a wonderful experience. I was also very excited to start working with a whole bunch of different people, like meeting new people. I was also very excited to start working with a whole bunch of different people, like meeting new people. It was a very interesting job. Once I started on the first day, I already had a huge assignment to complete. Suzanne had me go out to take pictures of the wind sculptures that were put up on the light posts on the street of San Pablo Avenue. I got to ride with the artists themselves. I got to meet them, and they were very friendly and funny. That same day, after I was done taking pictures, Suzanne had me go with her to Home Depot to help her out. We were having people fill out surveys. The surveys were for the city. It had questions like, what do you think about our city, and do you have any ideas on how we can make El Cerrito a better place? Suzanne and Karen Pincos were very wonderful bosses. They will always have work for me and my friend, who was also my coworker at the time, Amel. The assignments that they had us do were always interesting. Like another assignment that Suzanne had me do was, since I had a little bit of experience with one of the programs she had on the computer, which was Lightroom 5, and she was new to it, she had me create a step-by-step instruction manual based on the basic steps for Lightroom. She will be using it so she can teach herself how to use it. I had many other assignments that Suzanne had me do, but those two I thought were the best ones I did over the summer. I had a really wonderful time for working for the city. I encourage anybody who has the opportunity to sign up for the internship to not hesitate. They will not regret it. I don't regret anything at all. I thought it was a very great experience, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be a part of this internship. I would like to thank Sakaria Bashir, Suzanne, and Karen Pincos for the great time we had shared together in the office. I would also like to thank Mr. Mason and Ms. Shaw for telling me and letting me know about this internship. Also, I would like to thank my photography teacher, Mr. Grover, because he let me use one of his own cameras that he got out of his own pocket from his house. He trusted me with it, and he let me use it for the whole summer. And lastly, I would like to thank the city of El Cerrito for this great opportunity that you guys gave me and my friends. My name is Jesus Salazar, and I thank you all for your time and cooperation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alvin Wing, and this is
Melissa Roy.
We are both currently seniors at El Cerrito High School, and we have recently completed our internship at the city of El Cerrito. We were both assigned to the Public Works Department and the Community Development Department.
Within the departments, we have contributed to the progress of the Urban Greening Plan and Active Transportation Plan.
I chose this department because not only do I want to help make my city a better place to live, not that it's already a great city to live in, but to also make the city of El Cerrito a greener and more natural city to be.
I chose this department because I wanted to see a civil engineer in action and an architect in action. I also wanted insight on the Active Transportation Plan in El Cerrito.
Because of this fantastic opportunity for me to work in a city work environment, I was able to do tasks that I would have never done. I got to organize and plan my own teen focus group meeting with Mohit that allowed teens to come and give their input to the city to help them decide what they should build or improve to benefit the teens in the city. Mohit and I also got to participate in professional meetings with big companies like AC Transit, MIG, and Caltrans.
This fantastic opportunity enabled me to gain great practical skills that I can use every day. One highlight of this internship was that the day when former city engineer Jerry Bradshaw came into our AC Stars class and gave an epic speech that helped me choose my major for college. Because at first I wasn't so sure if I wanted to major in civil engineering. But after hearing Jerry's epic speech, I found that I wanted, I could see myself doing that every day. I found my vocation.
For me, if there was one thing I would be able to take with me from this internship, it would be all the practical skills I've learned and developed. I've learned how to interact with professionals during meetings, how to use office equipment, and how the city of El Cerrito operates. These skills are only a few of the many I've obtained. This internship has made me a stronger critical thinker, a more creative and a resourceful person, and a more engaging citizen.
And for me, if there was one thing I can take along with me from this internship, it would probably be all the insight that I gained on city planning and how to interact professionally with others, from writing an email to organizing a meeting. The internship was also a great experience. I gained a great experience that I needed to gain to be successful in life and in the working world, and made me a more engaging person. Now that I know a lot more about how the city works, when I see a stop sign, I'll know the process of how to get that fixed and what it goes through. I would like to thank our mentors, Yvette Ortiz and Emily Alter and Melanie Mintz for helping us and mentoring us during our internship. And
I also like to thank the City Council, the City of El Cerrito, and the ITA Academy to provide us with this internship experience.
Special thanks to Sakari Bashirs for helping us and giving us great information throughout the internship.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Yu, and I'm currently a senior at El Cerrito High School. During the summer of 2013, I interned for the finance department. I found particular interest in the finance department because I always wanted to know how the city budgets its money and in order to provide its residents the main needs they offer. One of the big projects I did during this internship was the grants inventory project, in which I conducted meetings with several departments regarding the grants they currently have. This project helped me gain valuable communication skills because in the beginning I was intimidated by doing this project, but afterwards I felt more comfortable talking with others. Throughout this program, I've developed many valuable skills, and I've experienced what it feels like to work in a professional environment with more mature and knowledgeable people. The experience I had during this internship is definitely one of a kind. Not only did I learn valuable things from my experiences, but also from the people I worked with. I was very inspired by every person I encountered during this internship, and I feel I have matured and discovered new things and views throughout this time. I'm still learning and growing every day, and this experience has contributed a huge part to my growth. I would like to thank my mentor, Elisa Malek Zadeh, for being an amazing mentor and taking everything I say into consideration. I would also like to thank the finance staff for welcoming me and supporting me during my time here. Lastly, I would like to thank the City of El Cerrito for making this amazing program possible.
Hi, my name is Srita Yonjan, and I am a senior at El Cerrito High School, and I am also in the ITA Academy. And the department that I internshiped for over the summer was the fire department. And some of the things that I did was, first I did Fire RMS, which is basically a program which held emergency contacts, addresses, phone numbers, and other important information of all the businesses in El Cerrito and Kensington, which was extremely tedious and took a lot of patience. And other things that I did was I worked on the fall issue of the Fire Plug, which basically just informed and educated the residents about fire hazards, safety measures, open houses, and much more. Another thing that I worked on was maps. And what I mean by that is I calculated the numbers of houses in all of El Cerrito and parts of Kensington, which is also extremely tedious and took a lot of patience. And the skills I attained by doing those works along with many other projects was, first, I believe that I became more of a quality producer because I knew that other people were relying on me, and that motivated me to produce a greater quality work. Another thing that I got was, first when I started Fire RMS, I was completely oblivious to it. I had no idea what this program was. I had never seen it in my life ever before, and getting us accustomed to that was kind of a challenge at first. And also other software such as Excel that I previously used slightly, but I got more in depth with it over the couple weeks. And also proficient, which equals the proficient user of digital and media technology. Another thing we did was jargon words. Every week we would share jargon words from each and every department. So I was in the fire department. I would share my jargon words with the rest of the interns, and they would share theirs with ours, and we would be able to understand the different departments, even though we were specifically in one. One of my extreme highlights was the fact that everybody from all of the departments would take time out of their day and come talk to us personally. And some of the things that they told us, one of the important 100% things that I will remember forever is the vocation versus occupation. They told us that we should follow our dreams, follow what we believe in, and that way we'll be able to obtain so much more than just following a job that we might want, or rather than just doing a job, following something that your heart is telling you to do so. And we learned that everybody in El Cerrito, every single person that we interacted with, every single member, every single worker was completely devoted to their job, and that made them so much more productive, and we're actually happy doing so. Another thing that when we first started off, we learned about 21st century student, which was basically just critical thinking, communication skills, technological skills. And I think by the end of the couple weeks that we spent in the internship, we definitely came out as 21st century students, using the skills to better the community. And lastly, I would just like to thank the City Council and the City of El Cerrito and everybody who participated to make this internship come true. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Conrad Kosel. I'm currently enrolled in the ITA, or Information Technology Academy. ITA teaches students about computers. Some of these things are programming, computer components, and web design. Because of ITA, I've grown to love working with computers, and I want to be a programmer one day. I was an intern in the El Cerrito Police Department because I always thought that law enforcement was cool, and I thought that how they're willing to put their lives on the line for others and how they help others was really cool. So some of the skills I developed in working in the police department was note-taking skills and research skills. Some of the programs I had, some of the projects I had was researching rugged laptops or laptops to just sustain damage from day to day to 6-foot drops and spills. I got better at writing down key parts of speeches and documents by interviewing some of El Cerrito's professionals and taking notes while reading a book to help students in the future. I also strengthened my speaking skills by speaking in a formal tone to everyone in the police department. And thanks to everyone in the police department, I got to learn about the different parts of it, such as patrol and property and evidence. The internship taught me many things. Some of the things they taught me was to never give up on finding my vocation, because many of the professionals I've interviewed during my internship had many problems and had many occupations before finding their vocation. I also learned to keep an open mind about the occupations, because you never know which one can lead to your vocation. I also learned that you never stop learning new things and improving your skills. Chief Morio taught me this, and she has a wide range of knowledge and is bettering her skills every day to just learn about new things and help others. So, thank you all. And the next and last intern is Karina Martin.
Hello everyone, my name is Karina Araceli Martin, and I am still currently working for the Recreation Department for the City of El Cerrito. And I have to say it's been a great experience. I love working there, and at first I didn't know much about what the Recreation Department was. I just really thought it was about like swimming, since it was by the swimming pool. And however, all of that changed this summer with the help of my mentor Vivian Brandt and my coworkers. I have a complete broader sense of what recreation is, from childcare to summer camps to winter spring classes, all the way to special events, facility rentals, senior services, and aquatics programs. The first project my mentor had me work on was based on MESA, which is Madera After School Enrichment Program. And I pulled out information from 2 surveys, participant and non-participant, and I created a compare and contrast between the two. At first, I didn't really think my project would be into use much. However, that changed a couple months later when the program was about to start working. One of the contractors was talking to my mentor, Vivian Brandt, and she actually took out my compare and contrast of the cons and pros of the MESA program. And I was really shocked, because I was like, wow, my work is actually being into use with someone in the like real working environment, which was really an amazing experience. Another thing I worked on was their e-newsletter, which is now called Rec News. I redesigned their look of it as well as the logo. Working for the Recreation Department, it helped me grow as a person and helped me develop my skills in communication, time management, and research. I have to say EC STARS is an amazing program, and I believe everyone should have the opportunity to be in this program, because honestly, I've grown with this program. I don't know where I'd be without it. I want to thank Sakari B. Shears for allowing this program to start, as well as Chris and Melody Shaw for telling us at the ITA. Also, I want to thank you all for allowing this program to go into place, and thank you.
Sakari Bashir's Human Resources Manager. If I could have all of the interns stand up, please.
Actually, you can have them come on up to the front, and that'd be
Well,
great.
actually, we're going to have you guys come on up, and then I'll turn this over to Mayor Lyman, who has some certificates that he is going to present to the interns.
And I will be coming down briefly to present these certificates to you. This is our opportunity for the council to express any words. Go ahead.
Yes, I would really like to thank everyone involved in this program. This program came out of a conversation that I had with Mike Aronian, who's sitting there in the audience. Mike, if you would wave. And talking about how to expand a program we had been doing in the summer of taking students to Sacramento in a service club that I'm in. And this program is just so much richer than that. And one of the things I would like to acknowledge is how important I think that this sort of thing is for the students' learning and preparedness for life, because it's connecting the academic side of the house with the actual real work experience. And I want to thank our El Cerrito staff who were involved, who were named along the way, but also I want to thank Scott Hannon for really believing in this. I especially want to thank Sukari and Karen Pincos, who I don't quite, there she is over there, and all of the staff who really bought into the concept and made it really what it is, so that it wasn't just an exercise in filing paper clips or something, that it was real work, and so that the students could actually see what it was like to actually have a job where, you know, where you produced real output. And I think all of these students did do that, and I think that I would hope that we would do this program again, and I would hope that the other cities around us and other organizations around us would do the same. And I do think that one of the important features of this program is that the students are paid for their work, because they are doing real work, and it is important to acknowledge that. And I would also like to thank the school district proper for their part in bringing to us the program that was behind this, which was the Link Learning Program. I think it may have a different name now, but it was originally called the Link Learning Program. It's the academy program that the students mentioned. They were all in different academies. And so I think it's just the most fantastic thing that we could have done on our city summer. And I hope that we do it again. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to echo what Janet said. I think it was a great program. I actually, at one of the Park and Rec Commission meetings, had one of the students give a presentation on the smoking ordinance that we were thinking about. She did a really good job, and I think it's really, I think you sounded like you had a lot of fun. And I really wanted to find out more about the jargon words, who had the best, what department had the best jargon words, but I'll just leave it at that. And thank you all for participating.
And I will come down and give my remarks from the other mic. First of all, congratulations to all of you for your achievement, and your presentations tonight were fantastic, so you should take at least that experience away with you. Civil engineering is a great vocation. I know an epic speech is not forthcoming at this point because I'm known for my brevity, but I'm glad that Jerry was able to convince you to join our ranks. I did take note that many of you learned and repeated some of the things that you all learned: communication skills, and these are lifelong skills: note-taking, researching, and I want to emphasize one that you're all practicing right now, which is listening. Listening is a very important skill, and I hope that you all remember the skills that you learned and take them forward in your careers, and may they be vocations. There are many people here that Janet did a beautiful job of thanking: the school district, the people who thought this up, and of course our city staff. So I won't take much time doing that. I will begin to give out presentations. You did get from us, from the city of El Cerrito, you will be receiving a certificate of achievement, and from Contra Costa County Supervisor John Joya, you will be getting a certificate of appreciation. So I don't think I saw a staff member of his here, but I know that he really does also value education and the type of training that you guys received. With that, I'm going to call them out in the order that you spoke, because that happens to be the way I signed them. So, Amel? Jessica? Make sure that you only got one. Yeah, okay. Jesus? Alvin? Let's see, Mohit? Jennifer? Sweeta? Conrad? And I'll come to you, Karina. Thank you all. And I see a few people lining up behind me, so we will take short remarks from at least Mr. Aronian. I see Dr. Harder here. I see Mr. Mason lining up to speak, and I don't know if Mr. Groves has thoughts that he wants to express, but if we could be brief, we do have a meeting to go on to. Do you want to torture them by having them stand, or can we have them sit? Okay.
Could you guys come on over here? Could you guys come on right back over here? And behind Mr. Mason. Good evening, council members. Thank you for having us. Mr. Mason, come on. Yes, sir. This program, as Ms. Abelson had discussed, it was conceived. Mr. Hannon was there. Ms. Bashirs was there. A couple times Ms. Pincos was there. It was great. And the amount of support we had was fabulous. This gentleman here, something you don't know, this gentleman here had a teaching partner for every Friday that the kids met.
Indeed.
And I would like to take this opportunity to present Ms. Bashirs with a plaque. This is on behalf of the school district. Sakari Bashirs, honorary teacher.
Oh.
You're all set if you need another vocation.
So on behalf, I had the duty of weekly instruction. This began as a seed of an idea, and it grew very, very quickly and very naturally and organically, but it took a willing school district, a willing city, all kinds of support from teaching staff. Chris, thank you so much. You're absolutely invaluable. We had to do some mushing. We had to do some persuading, a number of special events, and here is the very much the fruit of all that labor, our future. I'm going to keep this really short, but for my part, I'm so proud of this student cohort. They grew so much individually and respectively, and y'all are not just EC stars, but rock stars. Go out and make the world a better place one day at a time. You're going to do it. Thank you so much for your inspiration.
Congratulations to all of you. If there's no other speakers, we will move on to item 5D. Item 5D is similarly a proclamation. It is for Fall Prevention Awareness Week, September 22nd to 28th. And we do have a representative, Ms. Lauren Zion. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If you would like to give us a few words about this proclamation, then we will move it so.
I'd love to. Thank you. I'm Laurel Zion. I'm an elder care coach and educator, and I'm a volunteer with the Fall Prevention Coalition of Contra Costa County. And I've been here several years before. It's great to be here with you again as a kickoff for Fall Prevention Awareness Week. The Fall Prevention Program of Contra Costa County is a sub-program of Meals on Wheels and Senior Outreach Services, and we thank you for your support of our program. It's a great honor to receive a proclamation again in recognition of Fall Prevention Awareness Week from all of you. Meals on Wheels Senior Outreach Services has been serving seniors in Contra Costa County since 1968. The Fall Prevention Program serves nearly 700 seniors through evidence-based exercise classes, home safety assessments, and modifications, and through sharing educational tools about preventing falls. The number of clients MOS serves has ballooned since the economic downturn began, from 2,996 individuals in fiscal year 2007-8 to 5,109 in fiscal year 2011-12, an increase of 71% in 4 years. Over 800 volunteers and 70 coalition members actively participate in our work, allowing every dollar that we spend to provide many dollars worth of services. Thank you again for your support of fall prevention and fall prevention awareness, and please feel free to contact us if you need any more information. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. This proclamation is, I think, very important. I know I've actually personally known 3 people in my life whose lives were shortened because of their falls and breaking their hips in their senior years. So it is a very important reason. So I'm looking for a motion to pass this proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that it passed unanimously. And I will sign it and bring it down to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Shall you need it for
That was a hard act to follow.
We will move on with the rest of our consent calendar, 5A through 5C, 5E through 5G. Does anyone want to pull any other items for discussion?
No. Move adoption of those items.
Sorry?
Second.
Move adoption of those items.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Let the record show that it passed unanimously. Item 5H, I pulled this just mostly because this, I don't know if staff wants to say any words. This is really mostly for us to talk, so I don't know if your memo was quite good, but this is a very complicated topic, so I don't know if you want to shed a little light on it with your remarks.
Well, I hadn't really prepared any, but if I guess what I would say is if there are any questions that any of this raised, I'd be happy to address them. Essentially, we're just going through the same process we have gone before and asking for money for the obligations that are the former redevelopment agencies.
So the most important thing that I wanted to highlight is that we are potentially under cash flow loan. We will be utilizing our cash reserves to make this loan, or potentially use our cash reserves for making this loan. And I also wanted to talk, if you would, briefly about previous litigation expenses and their recovery, just to
Sure.
affirm that we have high expectations that this cash loan would be repaid.
Sure. The trailer bill that amended the Dissolution Act, I believe, specifically says that litigation costs are an enforceable use of redevelopment property tax, and we did put a cash flow loan agreement on the last ROPS, which initially DOF denied, and then once we presented them with some information documenting the specific costs, it was not a problem at all. And so they approved both the cash flow loan and specifically because it was for reimbursing the city for litigation costs. And so those funds have been received, and the city has already been reimbursed for those costs.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
Just one more. And is the loan amount expected to be sufficient to cover the cost of the litigation, or is this sort of the first tranche for this fiscal year, and it depends on how things may go?
Well, I guess I would say I think it will cover it, but I would certainly defer to the city attorney.
I think that the loan should be sufficient to cover the cost of litigation based on typical litigation costs for the trial level, depending on what the outcome is at that level. If there's an appeal, then we'd probably have to revisit it. Or if there's anything that's unexpected. I mean, that's the nature of litigation, is that sometimes unexpected things occur, but other than that, I imagine the amount that's on the loan should be sufficient for the trial phase of litigation.
Great, thank you.
With that, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move the item.
We have a motion.
Second?
We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that it passed unanimously. That concludes our item 5. We will move on at this time to item 6, which is a public hearing. In this public hearing, we will announce it. We'll have a staff presentation. We'll have questions from council. We'll open it for a public hearing. If there's public here to testify, they will testify. We will close it, and then we will move on with discussion. With that, I will announce a public hearing. Excuse me. A public hearing on the abatement of fire hazard public nuisances on 6 properties pursuant to El Cerrito Municipal Code, Chapter 16.26. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. As you know, I'm Dave Chaparro, the Fire Prevention Officer, and I'm here to introduce a resolution confirming the cost of forced abatement on 6 properties previously recognized as public nuisances by the City Council and allowing for the lien of the associated costs against the properties. As a quick overview, from last time, there were 140 properties initially found in violation of city standards. From there, 23 were declared public nuisances at the nuisance hearing. And from there, 6 were left for forced abatement. They have been abated. The costs are before you, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Questions? I have one, if no one else does.
I'm just kind of curious. I was looking at these and wondering if it may be true in some cases, and maybe you can't tell, that people actually like the idea that we would take care of the abatement and all they have to do is pay a bill?
Well, the difficulty with that is they may like us to take care of it. What we find is there are several properties that show up on the list annually, and they wait to the very last notice or the last date to take action on their own property. I doubt they really like us to take care of it due to the administrative costs that are associated with it. However, there have been circumstances, especially last year, where I was at the home as the contractor was there. The person came out of their home, flagged me down, and we were able to make an arrangement for her to pay the contractor directly for those costs. The home got abated according to the program, but the administrative costs were waived at the discretion of administration.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm familiar with a couple of these properties and know that they may be in the process of changing hands, but in some cases they may be owned by people who are on fixed incomes. And so if they're unable to pay or a property owner does not pay, what happens to these charges that we've accrued?
Well, the general process that occurs after this abatement hearing, or after the cost hearing, I should say, is that I go down to the county offices and place liens. When I spoke with the county actually in an inquisitive fashion just to find out the process of what the county does if folks don't pay their property taxes, basically. Their answer was that they allow the liens to accumulate, and then at some point the liens that are placed outweigh the value of the property, and at that point the county takes over the property and auctions it off.
And we would get reimbursed from the auction proceeds?
We are actually reimbursed much earlier than all of that. I will place these charges on this year's tax bill, and they usually get this out earlier than even next year's assessment. So the city is reimbursed every time by the county up front.
Great. And then I was looking at the actual dates of service, and it looks like after we had our meeting in July, that the vendor, the provider who removed the vegetation, didn't visit the site for almost 2 weeks. And I'm just curious if there's a way for us to shorten that time period, given the notoriety of the Rim Fire and our most recent Bay Area fire, the Morgan Trail fire, Morgan Territory fire. I'm just curious if there's any way for us to have this vegetation removed earlier, late July, early August, as opposed to the third week of August, which is what it appears like the dates were of service.
The reason why the dates are so spread out is to give the property owners every opportunity to take care of the property issues themselves. The length of the process that started in the early 90s was verified through city attorneys, and also, like I said, the main goal of which is to have the property owners abate the properties themselves without us having to add the administrative costs that are associated. That's why it's usually about a month from between each of the steps, is because the property owners have to be given a chance. It's not that it can't occur any sooner, it just becomes challengeable if they are not given the chance to rectify the situation themselves.
Great, thank you. With that, I will open the public hearing at this time.
We have no speaker slips, Mayor.
I move that we close the public hearing.
We have a motion that's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show it passed unanimously. And that brings us to the proclamation that's at hand, the resolution of the city to confirming the report of costs.
I move the resolution.
We have a motion.
Second? Oops, go ahead. Go ahead.
Seconded by Councilmember Bridges. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Let the record show that it passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Officer Chaparro, for all your hard work. I see you racing out the door. I know you can hear me, though. We're amplified in the lobby.
I think he has his weed whacker back there, right?
That concludes item 6 and brings us to the happy item of 7A. And I see Chief Maples at the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Tonight I am excited to bring before you item 7A. This item will ultimately authorize the purchase of a new ladder truck for the city's fire department and will replace the existing one that's over 20 years old. Staff tonight is requesting council adopt a resolution that authorizes the acceptance of $856,406 from a federal FEMA grant. We're also requesting the authorization of appropriations of $951,562, which is made up of this grant and a contribution of $31,718 from the Kensington Fire District, and the matching grant from the City of El Cerrito's unrestricted general fund of $63,438. And finally, the main part of tonight, we're looking for authorization for the city manager to enter into contract to purchase a 2014 Spartan 103-foot aerial apparatus from High Tech Emergency Vehicle Services in the amount of $951,562. I would be happy to open up to questions for anything you'd like to know about the existing piece of equipment, the replacement piece of equipment, or the grant process that we used.
Any questions from council?
I just had a couple of questions. So, first of all, let me just commend, yet again, we got another grant. But not only this, we also had the grant for chest compressions and the breathing apparatus. And I think all in all is over 1.1 million or something like that.
I'll be back later in the year for both of those items also.
I mean, did I steal your thunder?
No, not at all. No, those came out in weekly reports. I can tell you for those two items, we had a process in place, and Mr. Hannon helped us. So we have the funding in place for the air packs, and we have the funding in place in the current budget to be able to do the match for those. This was one that was a very competitive process, and it's also much more money. We didn't have the funding in place because we didn't get authorized the grant until after the budget cycle had closed.
Right. And I had asked some questions about our vehicle replacement fund, and I understand that our current leases are taking most of that money, and therefore that's why we're going in unrestricted general funds. That's fine. 103 feet.
Correct.
How many stories is that? 8? 7? 6?
7, 8-ish around there. Depends on the placement, depends on if it's on a narrow street or a wide street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think that we also saved ourselves a little bit of money because we did this tag on with
Tag on
Novato.
with Novato Fire Protection District, which saves a lot of administrative time and going out for an RFP and putting together a spec that's unique.
Right. And this does 700, I don't know, what did I read, 800 gallons of capacity of water shooting.
No, this is a pre-plumbed aerial that can shoot water, but it doesn't have a pump. A ladder truck doesn't have a pump on it. An engine supplies a ladder truck.
Is this unique? Is this different than the one we had from Richmond?
The only difference between
new?
There's lots of differences, but the main difference between the one we currently have is it's 105 feet. This one's 103 feet, but the capabilities of the truck are very similar.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I was truly amazed by just I understand these are only some of the reports that are included in the process of developing the materials that are needed to do this procurement. And what my question is, because I really am truly amazed at the amount of detail and amount of technical information that was here, is how do the firefighters or whoever's doing this learn how to do these? Or even look at the documents?
Well, there's like every good department, there's a bunch of people behind the scenes doing a lot of work.
I can tell.
First and foremost on this project, the department has applied for this grant 3 times. This is the 3rd cycle that we've applied. Chief Gibson has been very successful in writing grants for the department. He was instrumental in putting this one together and every year tweaking it and going to the grant seminars and seeing, what wording do we change? How do we go one way or another? And then the second part of this puzzle is Battalion Chief Mike Pagoni, who has an extensive background in fire apparatus and all the emergency components that go from that. Before he was in the fire service, he worked for a fire truck vendor. So it's those 2 individuals that make things like this a success, and we can do it in-house. And, I honestly, I wouldn't want to review grants or sell fire trucks to either one of those folks. They do a real good job of it.
And just for the benefit of our viewing audience, can you explain to us what the benefit is of having this kind of apparatus?
For sure. A community is rated by the Insurance Services Organization, and you have to have certain components within your department or within your region. One of the components is a ladder truck. Having a ladder truck in the El Cerrito Fire Department is one of the main factors that takes our ISO rating from a 4 to a 3. When we first started the contract relationship with Kensington, they weren't considered part of us, so their ISO rating was a 4. When they came aboard and we became one organization operationally, it gave them the ability to come from a 4 to a 3. So it helps El Cerrito remain as a 3, and it helps Kensington not go back to a 4.
And what that does for the individual residents?
It rates your insurance, which sets the rate that the insurance carrier charges for residential commercial type
So
insurance.
without this, we would have higher rates, is that correct?
Yes, we would go from a 3 to a 4.
That's a good question.
Any questions?
No.
I actually have one, because it looks like there's an opportunity for a policy here. On page 22 of this very extensive, detailed list, it says, it's halfway down the page, 30-12-7000. The apparatus body shall be painted, must specify. So do we get to pick the color tonight?
I get to pick the color.
Oh, yeah?
I knew that'd make you smile. It will match our fleet.
Okay, because I was asked earlier today if it's going to be red or yellow. So.
No. It will the one key component about this this spec and this Spartan chassis is the cab and the front of it will match the other two rigs that you guys have recently purchased, Engine 71 and Engine 72. White top, red side. They'll look like sister engines right next to each other.
Yeah, it does say cab paint exterior two-tone, but it doesn't tell me what the two tones are. So I was definitely looking through here to
Mayor,
find.
in all honesty, we'll paint it whatever color you want.
Red is what I would like. Let's see. We have taken up this matter. Are there any public comments on this item?
No speaker slips.
Any further comments?
If I could just make one comment, and this is an absolutely fantastic leverage opportunity, and how amazing that we got this grant midway through the cycle, and it's a great use of funds. I do just want to note that I had a quick conversation with the city manager. This is the second item we're talking about dipping into our reserves on, and we did discuss the possibility of making sure that we still try to find savings elsewhere. This isn't, I mean, in the grand scheme of our budget, it's $60,000, but we've taken up two items now that we'll dip into that a bit, and we've talked about how we can fill that gap before we get to the end of the fiscal year. So I'm happy we had those discussions, and when leverage opportunities like this come along, clearly it behooves us to move quickly and get this done, and $1 million piece of equipment is going to be a great boon to our residents. I'm glad you mentioned the cost savings. We're helping them maintain. That's one of those things that, a layperson wouldn't have known. But I did want to just make that note that we did talk about trying to fill that gap before the fiscal year, and I'm sure as we get budget updates, we'll hear how that's going. Thank you.
And I do appreciate your comments, and I will say this is one of the things that's so wonderful about the city of El Cerrito and the department heads you have. I was contacted from all the department heads when this first became public, and that we knew that it wasn't budgeted for, and everyone said there's got to be a way we can do this, and if we can tighten the belt a little bit here or do this, it's $60,000 for $1 million piece of equipment.
Right, exactly.
And so it's a real big deal.
Thank you.
Thank you to you and your staff for all the hard work that you put into this. And when you get it, let's have a ribbon cutting or something.
Or dousing with the fire hose.
I want to move the resolution. I'll read it because there's actually three parts to it. Resolution of the City Council authorizing the city manager to accept $856,406 in grant funds from FEMA, appropriate both the $856,406 in grant funds and $95,156 in matching funds, and execute a contract with High Tech Emergency Vehicle Services for the acquisition of a replacement 103-foot aerial fire truck through cooperative purchase program.
I'll second the motion.
We've had a motion. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Let the record show that it passed unanimously. Okay, here comes item 7B, proposed agreement between the City of El Cerrito and Republic Services, Inc. for the post-collection processing and landfill disposal services. And I see Mr. Schultz at the podium for a presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, members of the public watching at home, everyone else present. I'm Garth Schultz. I'm the manager of the city's Operations and Environmental Services Division, and among other things, that division is responsible for solid waste concerns here in the city. I wanted to, there's a few folks here with me tonight. I've got William Schoen with R3 Consulting Group, the city's consultant, advising us on the development of this proposed agreement. We've also got Peter Nutti, division manager with Republic Services, and counsel to Republic Services, Scott Gordon. So as we get through the presentation, if you have questions that I can't answer, I may be referring to those folks. So I'm here tonight to ask the council to approve a proposed agreement between the city and Republic Services and through a variety of subsidiaries for post-collection, processing, and landfill disposal services. I'll start off with just making sure we're clear on what that means. The post-collection elements are everything that happens to the city's garbage and green waste and some other waste streams that I'll discuss in my presentation after it's been collected from the curb. So here in the city, we have East Bay Sanitary collects your garbage and green waste for residents and businesses, and once that garbage gets into the trucks and the green waste gets into the trucks, it's got to go somewhere, and that's what post-collection is. As a side note, the recycling component of what the city actually collects isn't a part of this agreement. That's handled otherwise and has been handled outside of post-collection agreements like this since the city began its own recycling collection operation in the 70s. So we're talking about where our garbage goes, where our green waste goes, how it's processed, and other concerns similar and related to those. So, by way of background, the city, as you are certainly the council is aware, and the members at home might not be, is a member of the West County Integrated Waste Management Authority, also known as Recyclemore. I'll refer to them probably just as the authority tonight. But the authority has been in existence for roughly 20 plus years, and since El Cerrito became a member of the authority, early 90s, El Cerrito ceded its ability to direct the flow of where garbage and green waste and other materials like that go to the authority. The authority gets to decide on the behalf of El Cerrito and the other member agencies, which includes Richmond, San Pablo, Pinole, Hercules, and unincorporated areas of West Contra Costa County, where garbage and green waste go. The authority has had an agreement with Republic and its subsidiaries for the last 20 years, and that agreement is expiring at the end of this calendar year, December 31st. Realizing that was coming, the authority rightly went out to figure out what are we going to do with the West County's waste after this agreement expires. And the authority went out on a competitive procurement process, a statement of interest process, wherein companies submitted their interest in handling that post-collection material, and then the authority went through and selected the qualified firms, and then with those qualified firms negotiated potential outcomes, and then had it was able to establish what they felt was the most competitive bid. So the authority went out and did this starting about this time last year in December. No, it was actually probably mid-2012. By late 2012, the authority had received 6 proposals from qualified firms, and the authority determined that Republic Services, our current contractor, had the best proposal for the authority. It had a combination of all the services that the authority wanted to see, as well as some valuable services for the other member agencies in the city, within the region. Increasing, and we've heard from Mayor Lyman on this in the past several months, increasing their collection frequencies to weekly and the like. That's not what we're discussing tonight, but I wanted to give you a background of the process and why we're considering a contract with Republic Services. The rest of the authority members have been negotiating, and this was one on your consent calendar earlier this evening, has been negotiating a post-collection agreement with the authority and Republic for post-collection services. Early on, El Cerrito realized that it would be more beneficial to El Cerrito because of the unique situation of this contract, and because we don't have the same collection provider as the other West County cities, to do an independent relationship between the city and Republic as the authority's selected contractor. So that gives you a little bit of the background of why we're selecting, or why we're proposing specifically with Republic, and that there is a competitive process that was done at the authority's level. When we began our own review of an agreement with them, we wanted to establish and make sure that we could demonstrate that competitiveness to El Cerrito specifically. And so we engaged R3 to be able to establish the competitiveness with alternatives available to El Cerrito. We also evaluated some new and innovative services that were being proposed by the company. And we wanted to keep a keen eye to rates to make sure that the El Cerrito ratepayer was getting the maximum amount of value out of this agreement. One of the first steps we took in evaluating the competitiveness of the proposals was to evaluate separately how this would impact El Cerrito's rates. I mentioned that the proposal with Republic to the authority included a bunch of other services that were available to the other West County cities, but not to El Cerrito because of our different collection provider. So we looked at just what the post-collection services would be for El Cerrito, and we were able to establish, because of longer hauling distances to some of the other alternatives, inability for the other alternatives to provide some of the key and innovative services that are included in this agreement, that those other alternatives weren't as competitive as what Republic had proposed. Additionally, we looked at some other potential alternatives that weren't proposed as a part of the authority's SOY process and found that Republic's proposal was both very competitive with those, and for the cases where there was maybe some question as to whether there was additional competition out there, namely, one of our neighbors in Berkeley, it was pretty clear that this was going to be the best service value for us overall. So, getting into the innovative services, there's a few really great things that we get out of this proposed agreement. We get the same services we've had for garbage and green waste for the last several years, and garbage has been the same forever. It's going to a transfer station and it goes to a landfill here in Contra Costa County. For the last 3 or 4 years or so here in El Cerrito and elsewhere in the region, we've had composting locally on the old closed Richmond landfill of all of our green waste and food scraps and other organic materials, making locally produced compost material that we have available for our residents. So those two services are the same, but we also get a new service at a better kind of volume, which is a processing of mixed construction and demolition debris. And this is where an individual homeowner or business engaging in a construction process can order a debris box from our collector, East Bay Sanitary Company, put all the various construction and demolition debris materials in there, and then it gets trucked off to a facility where the contractor, Republic, will sort it out and get across the whole facility about 70% diversion. So that's a new service that makes it easier for small construction projects or large construction projects in El Cerrito to get good recycling. Another key and innovative service is a new one that's been kind of engaged with San Jose for the last year or more is dry waste processing. There's certain key sectors in all communities, and this is true of El Cerrito, where regardless of education and abilities to, or attempts to try to set up good source separation of recyclables and food scraps and yard waste and trash, some folks just have barriers to being able to do that in a way that makes it worthwhile. The dry waste option is where we just have two separations. You separate your wet stuff, which is typically your food scraps, from just all the other dry material, which is a combination of the kind of remaining garbage and recyclables. And for certain sectors of our service area, that can be a real beneficial way of getting 50% diversion or more while making it easier to implement on a residential or on a customer basis. And typically this will be for some of the larger businesses or larger multifamily complexes where it's just a high barrier. One other key service is a greater relationship with the schools here in El Cerrito, and I mean the public schools. Currently in El Cerrito, neither the city nor East Bay Sanitary Company, our franchise collector, service the public schools, and so we haven't had a lot of ability to influence or negotiate with anyone with respect to what types of diversion programs and education are occurring in the schools. And so through this agreement, we have a provision to work more cooperatively with Republic as the collector for the public schools to implement greater diversion programs and have a relationship that's specified through the terms of the agreement. And finally, and this is a pretty key one, we've done a lot in El Cerrito over the course of the last 6 years to increase our recycling programs, take more recycling at the curb, take food scraps at the curb. We've got the recycling center, and we've got the new services in the agreement. The question we have, and this is one of the things in the city's strategic plan as well as the climate action plan, is what's next in terms of diverting more material from landfill? How can we send more or less material to the landfill? And right now, we don't really know. We have to see. And so these waste audits, which is the kind of final service provision, is to evaluate the waste stream on an annual basis to figure out what's left, what's remaining in the garbage, and what can we effectively devise new programs to divert in the future. Overall, this agreement as proposed is going to come in cheaper than what we're currently paying for a lesser set of services now. And so we get new services out of this agreement, and we're going to get it about 9% cheaper than we're currently paying. And I mean, the ratepayers are paying here in El Cerrito. So it's a total cost of just over $1 million a year, and it's about $100,000 less than we've been paying for just garbage, green waste, and some other services in the current year. A final thing I forgot to note is that Republic also provides the household hazardous waste collection program here for West County and in El Cerrito, which includes a drop-off station out in Richmond, mobile collection for seniors and the elderly, and they also provide a number of the HHW services that we implement up at the El Cerrito Recycling Center. By way of summarizing, I did mention the strategic plan and the climate action plan. There's a few key elements of both that we feel that this agreement works to achieve. One of them is promoting environmental leadership with the school district. I mentioned the greater relationship in terms of getting better diversion in the school district. And then with the climate action plan itself, it maximizes our participation in waste reduction services and gives us, reduces waste from landfill and moves us down the road towards figuring out how we can get to zero waste per the terms of the plan. Finally, in terms of the environmental considerations, I mentioned there were other alternatives on the table, both when the authority considered the original proposers through the authority's SOI process, as well as the others we looked at. And at a very baseline, this is the same set of facilities that the city is currently using. It's not going to increase truck traffic to those facilities. No new facilities need to get built as a result of this agreement. And that's not necessarily true of all the other alternatives. I'm not saying the other alternatives were less environmentally sound, but it was just not as clear. And certainly with many of them, we would have needed to direct East Bay Sanitary to directly haul their garbage and green waste trucks a much further distance, which would have had air impacts, air quality impacts, vehicle impacts, as well as just an unknown impact on East Bay Sanitary's operation and replacement of vehicles and the like. I keep saying finally, I'll say it one last time, I apologize. Financial considerations to the city directly, there's a small chance that this, because it is a reduction in the amount of fees charged to the ratepayer, it could result in a small decrease in the franchise fee in the current year. Since writing this, I've done a bit more analysis into what I think the total garbage rates to the customer are going to be in the current year, and I think this worst case scenario of $10,000 is still sound. I don't really think we'll see any decrease to the franchise fee at all, but it is still a possibility. All the numbers aren't fully lined up yet. And this is because the franchise fee that East Bay Sanitary collects and remits to the city is on both collection and post-collection. So this post-collection cost reduction could certainly result in a slightly decreased revenue to the city for the franchise fee. And you have before you a goal. Thank you. I had my note here. So the mayor issued a number of questions to me yesterday that resulted in some positive changes to the agreement, and those are before you in the gold copy. I've summarized them in a 2-pager at the beginning of the gold copy before you, and then the gold agreement includes all of those changes. Mostly it was to clarify some terms and to include the HHW facility in a number of areas where we hadn't previously. So that what we're seeking approval of is the revised agreement in gold before you tonight. And I've already vetted this through the company. They've agreed to these proposed changes. And so I'm complete. If you have any questions or for me or any of our partners, please let me know.
Any questions?
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple questions for you. On table 2, which does the not table 2, on page 3 of the staff report where you have the comparison between the various rates that that staff and others considered. 2 questions. So our actual rate proposed under this contract would go down by almost 9 or 10%. How is that possible? I guess I just wanted to hear, how do you achieve cost savings while providing more services? Is this a function of our being part of the authority? I wanted to learn more about this. So often when you have cost increases that have to be explained, but even when you have cost decreases, I want them to be explained.
That's a great question. I wasn't around 20 years ago when we initiated the initial agreement, but essentially it's a factor of competition through the SOI process. It was a competitive playing field, and I think that certainly made for a really competitive set of proposals. And I think it caused Republic, the contractor, to really look at where they could provide additional value and trim things where needed. I don't have the background for what specifically how they run their business in that sense, but I believe it's a factor of competition. One item I wanted to note, and I'm seeing another note to myself, the initial proposed per ton rate of $90.30 per ton in this table and in the agreement is the initial proposed rate subject to current government fees. And so one of the things that we do know may be coming up over the course of the next few months is a potential increase to one of those fees. The agreement has in place a process by which those fees will get passed through, and it would be a fairly insignificant change, but it may be a change that's coming. Mr. Hannon looks like he has something to say. Pardon? Debt service?
I think another component of why the rates go down is the debt service, retiring the debt service on the original transfer station, which is a big component of the current rate.
Although I should qualify, my analysis of the decrease doesn't include the debt service decrease. So we will see a couple of different areas of decrease to the rates, to the post-collection rates for this coming year. One of them is the debt service Mr. Hannon mentioned, and the other is just due to a more competitive proposal.
Thank you.
You said you had two questions.
One more, yeah, thank you. And the staff report also makes reference to why the Berkeley Transfer Station alternative, which is the only potential option, which is less costly, is not as good of an option in terms of service and other administrative factors. But I wanted to just give you a chance to voice those of why that option was not pursued.
Yeah, so one of them is that this is a ballpark figure. This is a best case estimate, and it doesn't represent any.
To the penny.
Well,
yeah, no, I know. It's all divided by.
Exactly, but it's based upon, some loose conversations about what might be possible given our situation. And it is a very close option for transfer. Some of the concerns, one of them is around the fact that it's in Alameda County and we're in Contra Costa. And one of the things that wasn't clear is Alameda County has a pretty significant fee on waste disposed of in Alameda County. And there's restrictions on Contra Costa County waste being disposed of in Alameda County. So it would have been, it was theoretically possible, but it would have required a fair number of hurdles to figure out how to work through that specific element. So that's one. Two is that in order to pursue an option such as that, El Cerrito would have needed to seek withdrawal from the authority such that we would regain our own flow control direction of our waste stream. And that comes with a fair amount of uncertainty and a significant amount of potential cost. So weighing those two kind of primary options together just made it seem that just at base value here, not considering these other external factors, that the level of competitiveness of this wasn't really worthwhile pursuing. And they couldn't provide services like the dry waste, the in-school education. They could have provided a couple of the other services, but it wasn't as complete of a package as what we're receiving with Republic.
Right, and I am seeing a great opportunity for the EC interns to come to the recycling center and help you figure out how to get better recycling at the school. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Bridges.
Yeah, so I just had a couple of questions. Well, first of all, let me just thank you that you did a lot of analysis on this, and it is a little confusing, but I think with all the questions I directed to you earlier, it sort of shed a little light. But I still had a couple of questions about the C&D. So what I'm a little uncertain about is if I were to remodel a bathroom and I was going to totally gut it down to the studs, does my contractor, how does my contractor get educated? Is it me, the homeowner, that is to do that education piece? Will Republic do it? Does the city do it? And what do they currently do? Like on these small projects, I get what they're going to do if they're going to gut the theater and we're going to do a big renovation project there. But what about these smaller homeowners?
Well, so what I'll speak to is what will happen. So what I've been in discussions with the building division is how to educate all contractors coming into doing a construction or demolition project, regardless of size, to provide them with the information about what's available to them. And it's essentially they have a couple of different options. If they're going to order a debris box, which is a large, 10 or 20 cubic yard container that has to go through East Bay Sanitaries, they have the exclusive right to haul that material here in the city. And if it's East Bay Sanitary, they just tell East Bay Sanitary this is a construction project, and most likely East Bay Sanitary will notice that when they drop off the bin, and it just goes straight to the C&D facility, and it gets the kind of blanket 70% rate for recycling for the entire facility. The other alternative is that the contractor could self-haul it or the homeowner could self-haul it, and that could then go to a number of facilities because they're not restricted to haul it to any specific place. But they'll still get the information about what's available to them as a part of their building permit process. For certain projects above a certain threshold, and I'm still trying to clarify this with building because I don't understand building codes much, is that there's requirements through Cal Green now that certain levels of projects must achieve a certain percentage of diversion, and those folks are going to have to go through a process where they demonstrate how they're going to do that, and that's going to come through my division, so we'll be able to educate them further.
So this might actually happen at the permit pulling part.
Exactly.
Part of the process.
It will happen then.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's important because when we're looking at the strategic plan and we want to reduce, by 4,000 tons per year, if we did more than the 400 or 500 tons just with the dry waste and this, we could be a quarter of the way there just by these two new innovations.
It certainly helps a lot, and it's one of the reasons C&D especially was one of those that I've been keen on. I know that we've had a fairly, slow building period here, but with new projects coming on board that are going to be bigger and larger, that's a real key opportunity to divert a lot of material and prevent it from going to the landfill.
And so how do you see this dry waste working? Like, if you have an apartment building, say, over at Del Norte, and then there's another one that's sort of on the other end of town, how will it work? I get there'll be a business sector, like it might be just the plaza or just the north end of town. But they're not going to hopscotch around.
Well, they may very well. So one of the fortunate things is there's a little bit of flexibility built in now to East Bay Sanitary's collection routes, and specifically the commercial collection route. And I've discussed this with them before, including it in this agreement. But they've got an extra half route that services commercial entities in El Cerrito, large apartment complexes, and well as businesses. And that half a route gives us some flexibility to say, let's pull this subset of current customers that are being collected as garbage only and pull them as a dry waste route. And so we'll go through East Bay Sanitary, me, and probably representatives from the company from time to time to verify what's being, what the most logical candidates are, work with them to make sure they're pulling the wet material out, and then collecting that as a separate route on that half route through East Bay Sanitary. So the logistics of it are actually fairly well built in. I mean, we'll have to do a bit of education, and we'll have to do some analysis of what customer basis is going to be able to be pulled into that separate route. But that's essentially all it is.
How would you define a larger multifamily dwelling? Is that
really anything above 20 or so?
20, okay.
And we don't have that many of those. I mean, we've got, I think it's something like 1,800 or so in the city, but the vast majority are below 10. So really, above 20, we're talking about 35 or so complexes.
All right, thank you very much.
Councilmember Wilson, questions?
I just have a couple of comments, if that's okay.
How about we take comments after we take public testimony? Go ahead, questions?
Yeah. I'm really glad to see the inclusion of recycling programs for El Cerrito Public Schools. It does say that there's separate agreements between the school district and the contractor. Do you know when the current agreement expires?
I do not.
Does the Republic know?
I'll restate that for listeners at home. He believes there's about 5 to 7 left on it.
5 to 7 years?
5 to 7 years, correct.
Good, because this references coordination, and it's a lot easier to do if we have the same contractor as the school district, obviously, so I'm glad to hear that we've got quite a few years to be in coherence. My other question was on the Climate Action Plan, and again, I'm very glad to see this as part of the agreement. It says contractor agrees to meet and confer with the city in good faith to develop city programs to implement as part of the city's Climate Action Plan. Is there a timeline for implementing this part of the agreement?
No, and it's more we wanted them to recognize that in our climate action plan is a goal for significant reduction of amount of waste sent to landfill. And we wanted to be clear on that building a proposal based around continuing to send current tonnage levels to landfill and all of the costs and revenues built therein wasn't going to work. So they're aware of our climate action plan goals, and it's a commitment to work with us as we begin to implement them. So there's no time frame as much as a recognition that that's a reality of El Cerrito's situation as we enter into this agreement.
And it's something that staff will be monitoring on a regular basis?
Absolutely.
Great.
To that end, can you explain how the blended rate model encourages that type of diversion?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So what we've seen in other agreements, and certainly in the present arrangement that the authority has with the company, is different waste stream components have different per tonnage costs. So presently, say our green waste and food waste stream in El Cerrito, we pay, our ratepayers pay something on the order of, I think it's $60 or $65 a ton to process that material. Garbage, on the other hand, is, I think, twice or more that rate, and there's a separate rate for C&D. And so when we entered into drafting this agreement, I considered, well, we don't want to build in a perverse incentive for the company to look at a load of green waste that's contaminated and say, or slightly contaminated even, obviously if it's very contaminated, we want them to do the right thing and get it where it needs to go, but have a perverse incentive to look at this and say, well, that looks like it's garbage. Let's send it over here because we're going to get $135 a ton out of it instead of $65. And so the blended rate encapsulates all the various costs of dealing with the different material streams, but it eliminates that incentive because they're going to get paid the same no matter if it's green waste, garbage, C&D, dry waste. It's all being paid the same. It also eliminates one of the problems that we see in the collection side, which as you start moving material from one place to another, you have these unintended consequences in terms of rate impact. Oh, that sounded like it went out for a minute. So as green waste, for instance, gets pulled out of the garbage stream, as dry waste material gets pulled out of the garbage stream, there's not going to be a rate impact of that we'll have to deal with in the future. It just is a flat deal on that, on the tons.
Thank you. And with regards to C&D, there were some recent law changes. You alluded to them earlier, and they actually are taking it to a pretty small threshold. I think it's 1,000 square foot remodel would trigger someone to recycle as much as 50% of their construction and demolition debris. So it is something that every homeowner will need to know at some point. If you could please come before us at some point in the next couple of meetings during the staff presentation, item 2, and just say it again so that people at home that are listening during that part of the meeting can hear about the future changes that are coming. So if you or someone in the
and it may talk to building directly about that because I'm having them investigate specifically what it is because it will be a building permit matter. And I'm not sure about the thresholds, but I did want to just clarify a statement and not as much as 50%, a minimum of 50%
exactly.
of the material that they're disposing of.
Correct.
But we'll make sure someone comes.
And you mentioned the government fees earlier, and that the current projection is as much as a 9% savings. However, there is an anticipated government fee that was discussed at the last authority meeting of the City of Richmond increasing their franchise fee, and franchise fees are perfectly legal, and we have a franchise fee for our recycling center. They want to double their franchise fee, double from $1.50 to $3 a ton. So not all of the savings that you've highlighted in your memo may come to fruition, as you've alluded to.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why when I talk about the cumulative impact of a variety of changes to the rate, the monthly rate that the ratepayers see, I'm still not sure where that's going to land. We know that one component of that rate is projecting a significant reduction right now. There's other components that we know may be going up. Overall, we're expecting that the total monthly rate that ratepayers pay will be somewhere between 100 and 101% of what they're paying right now come the new calendar year. And this franchise fee is an element of that.
And there was one question I asked earlier today that the answer just baffled me a little bit, so I'm hoping that somebody has the answer here tonight. I asked you, where does the hazardous waste go? And you said, well, of course it goes to the hazardous waste facility. And my question was, well, where do they take it? Do we need to approve that facility that they take it to? So I was just curious do we know where they take the hazardous waste, and does that facility need to be incorporated into this agreement?
Yeah, I'm probably going to defer to Peter Nuti to maybe respond to that in a little bit more detail as he manages that operation. But one of the things I wanted to be clear on is that the HHW facility is still a function that is managed and administered via the authority. And so the authority and authority staff has to check the manifests for all of those materials that come through the HHW facility, whether from El Cerrito or other parts of the authority. And so that approval, that regulatory aspect of where that stuff goes and how much of it there is handled at the authority level. So I believe that piece of it's already handled for you. For the sake of education, Peter McBee, could you comment a little bit on that up here? Oh, come on, you can do a little.
Mr. Nuti, you came all this way to listen to us talk. We would like to hear you say something.
Inquiring minds want to know.
As far as where your household hazardous waste material goes once it gets collected through the through the facility. We actually have a separate contract, a three-way contract between West County Resource Recovery, the West County JPA, and Phillips Services. So the authority and our company get together with PSC. We try to get as much of that material in recycling as possible. The definition of recycling household hazardous waste is a little different than what we're normally used to. Some of it goes for fuel, some of it gets reblended into paint, which we take back and we hand out for reuse. Some of it, because of its nature, has to be landfilled or incinerated. But we do work with PSC to find out where the ultimate destinations are. As a matter of fact, tomorrow at 9 o'clock, the authority and us have a meeting with PSC to go over some of those locations and if we can move some of them. And we're actively working, trying to find other areas where we can get more recovery or recycling of that material. But we do actively find out where it goes and monitor it.
Good, thank you. And I believe the answer is that it does not need to be incorporated. Those destinations do not need to be incorporated.
The answer to your direct question is, yeah, all you have to do is get to the facility and then we take care of it from there.
Fantastic. That concludes questions. Are there any public speakers on this matter?
I have no request to speak.
We'll bring it back to comments, and Councilmember Abelson.
Right. I think the comment I was going to make maybe has already been made, but I'm really, when I started looking at this agenda item in the packet, I thought about what, to me, are the important things that I know about up front. And one of them was the issue of recycling in the schools, and which, when I go over there, it didn't look to me like was being done in any excessive manner. And the other one was the overall arrangement and relationship between our city and the other members of the authority, and the cost implications of all of that to us. And so as I went through and looked at all the materials, I thought about those issues, and what I was happy to see is that it looked like our staff and our representative, thank you, Mayor, did a really good job of representing the best interest of our city, our community, and the environment in El Cerrito. And so I want to thank everybody for that, because I think it's a really important thing. It's an important step, and it's a very good next step for us. So thank you.
Councilmember Bridges, comments? Councilmember Friedman? Well, okay, I can't help myself. Thank you, first of all, for being patient with all the changes that I recommended, and thank you to Republic Services for accepting the many minor changes to increase the clarity of the contract. And then, Councilmember Abelson, to build on your comments, not only did I represent our residents at the authority, I want to say that it was part of the decision, my decision to support this contract on the authority basis was the increased services that Republic proposed. Our neighbors in our adjacent cities will now get weekly pickup of their green waste and of their recyclables and their household waste. So it's that they will feel comfortable using those services and hopefully begin their diversion, increase their diversion rate through this contract. So to that end, I want to thank Republic Services for their creative proposal that included the increased services to our regional residents. And then finally, I want to thank Garth just for his very personal and professional commitment to our city, not only in this contract, but in all of the solid waste activities that you oversee. It really shows, and it helps not only our city, but Garth was on the selection committee, and I do believe that his understanding of the solid waste business is a large part to why we're here tonight with a contract almost 5 months prior to the expiration of our current contract. So thank you for your service on that regional body selection committee. With that, I will entertain a motion. And please make sure you refer to the
I move the resolution is amended on the yellow sheets.
We have a motion.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that it passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. We have item 8, and for those, I hope you can remember back to July 17th, because you will be providing us with council liaison reports since July 17th. Councilmember Abelson, would you like to lead us?
I think most of what I wanted to talk about I already mentioned, and most of the things that I do actually go fairly dark in August anyway.
Councilmember Bridges, you've got your meeting tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I have a meeting tomorrow. DRB actually had a meeting last Wednesday, and they had 2 applicants there, and we did not have a quorum. Sorry.
Councilmember Freeman, Councilmember Benassini.
I'll just note that FAB has been on hiatus until this month for the summer, and Planning Commission was working on cell towers, and we'll meet again tomorrow, and I'll have an update after that.
And I'm looking through mine, and I know that the Solid Waste Authority is probably the one that has met. And at that meeting, we did learn about the new C&D laws that are coming out. We did discuss the regional contract, which led to the earlier item 5H or 5G, I believe it is. And I have no other meetings to report about.
Can I add one? I'm so sorry. I just looked at my notes. The same night that the Planning Commission met about the cell antenna, they also had another item on the agenda, which slipped my mind, as you might imagine, and it was a study session on fences. And this was something that the Commission had been really concerned about, and they wanted to really get a good clarity on what should be the policy going forward. They felt as though there was some applicants were, depending on their presentation and whatnot, they were getting one treatment, and they want to just make sure they all had the correct understanding of what they should be doing. So that was a really good study session, and they had a long discussion about whether or not to be more stringent or less stringent and how to read the guidelines. So I felt as though at the end of that study session, they kind of had a clarity of purpose so that the next time the fence issue comes before them by a resident, they won't all groan. They'll have this feeling of sort of mutual understanding of what the planning code is actually telling them. So that was a really good session.
Great. And that brings us to item 9, adjournment. I'd like to make sure that we adjourn in the memory of the 12 victims in the shooting in Washington, D.C. Yesterday. So if we could adjourn in their honor, I would appreciate it. With that, we are adjourned.